In the world of demons, strength is absolute justice. And following this principle, demons have engaged in a bloody conflict among themselves for centuries until 520 years ago. The first demon king emerged in history to put an end to all the fighting and unified the demon race. And the name of that powerful demon king was Hyam, a menacing demon king whose strength surpassed that of any demons and was on par with even gods. And after 20 years of peace, his power gave him the courage to finally confront the demon god who ruled over their race. Hyam started disobeying the demon god's oracles, which brought the demon god to pay him a visit. The demon god questioned Hyam for his disobedience, but Hyam remained unfazed because he didn't want to fulfill the oracle of demon god of offering him 100 demon subjects' lives every day. Hyam was angered after having to sacrifice his kin for no reason than satisfying the demon god, so he defiled the gods and declared that everything on the land of earth belongs to him and others on the earth. So he don't think the demon god deserves anything from here and is better off staying in his own realm. The demon god was furious after such an arrogant reply, and he warned Hyam of the consequences of defiling his god itself. Hyam knew the demon god possessed overwhelming power, and to deal with him, the demon god transformed from a spiritual body to a physical one with flesh and bone. The demon god declared Hyam is to be put an end right here and now. But our badass guy was ready to show the god himself that he doesn't have a place here on Earth. Thus, the battle between the world's strongest demon king and the demon god erupted, where the demon king's soul magic power clashed with the mighty divine powers of the demon god. The very moment the battle broke out, the whole Earth faced abnormal catastrophe from earthquakes to floods, while these two might kept colliding against each other. The power of demon god was a force to be reckoned with, but even at his menacing charge, Demon King Hyam remained calm and froze the demon god with his dark ice magic. He planned to shatter the demon god with the ice, but the demon god broke out before that. Even so, Hyam unleashed the energy blast and sent the demon god pushing miles away. Their battle lasted for over 3 days and 3 nights, until the demon god was defeated by Hyam and his body disintegrated due to exhaustion. Hyam overwhelmed the demon god himself with his sheer will, and he showed the demon god his place for daring to transform into a physical body to face him on Earth. The demon god's loss was already determined once he decided to come down here to face the demon king. But even in this defeated situation, the demon god laughed at Hyam and called him a foolish demon king. Demon god reminded Hyam that no matter what he does, he can never win against the ruler of his demon race. Hyam reminded demon god that he just did it, and the one lost here is demon god. The demon god claimed the demon race cannot run from the palms of their god, and now the very fact that Hyam was born a demon would be the cause of his defeat. Hyam questioned just what the demon god means by that, but the demon god chuckled and declared death sentence to Hyam by his divine authority. Suddenly, Hyam's body began to crack like a dried pot, and it took him a moment to realize his body was going to vanish into thin air in the next few seconds. Hyam asked the demon god again what he did just now, to which the demon god replied that he just bestowed upon divine punishment on Hyam by his authority as the god of demons. And since even the demon king comes under his subjects, it's natural for the demon god to be able to spare or take his life as he pleases. Hyam cursed the demon god with all his might, while the demon god bid him goodbye, referring to him as the foolish demon king. Hyam soon perished while retaining his anger at the demon god, and the only thing left behind were his coat and some ashes. The demon god grinned at the outcome that favors him, and then chose to leave the place as well. After some days passed in the terrain, where the legendary battle just concluded, a glowing gate opened near the center of battle, and a small demon girl came out from it. She ran around as if she was looking for something, while holding something like a necklace in her hands. She came across the remains of Demon King Hyam, which she seemed very familiar with, and the girl sat down in grief because Hyam was like a family to her, and she mourned at his death for days. The little one didn't know how this happened and who killed Hyam, so all she could do was sit at the place he died and keep on crying. After that, some centuries passed since the death of the Demon King Hyam, and the scene shifts to the Demon King's castle in a remote region. And there, a white stone lies in pitch-black room with some ancient letters engraved on it. One day, this mysterious stone began glowing faintly, and soon a magic circle formed along with the opening of the magic stone, and a baby was born from the center of this magic energy. Once the human baby was born properly, he claimed to have finally succeeded in reincarnating, and it turns out this baby is the very demon king Hyam. Hyam recalled that before losing the battle against the demon god, he had already prepared the reincarnation magic. Hyam was very much confident that he'll surely win the battle against the demon god, but he still wanted to consider a scenario where he loses, since a god is a god in the end. He also made preparations to reincarnate in not only a new body, but also one that of a different race than a demon. Now, since he's fully reincarnated, Hyam used the magic to speed up his growth and skip past 16 years of age. The rapid growth magic took a serious toll on him and caused extreme pain, but that was necessary. Hyam's whole body is feeling like it's been crushed several times, and he didn't think it would hurt this much. He lights up the room with magic, recalling that he built this secret room here with the very purpose of his reincarnation. He also placed extreme protective magic around it, so that nobody could get in. He even kept clothes prepared for himself. So after changing, his first task is to determine how many years have passed. He remembers setting his reincarnation to happen 10 years after his death, but he can't be sure since the reincarnation magic was very complex to use, so he'll be lucky if he got the years right. Hyam went to open the door and was pleased to see the deal hasn't been broken yet, so he can figure out the time passed with its help. And to his shock, Hyam learned that 500 years have passed, and the reason why the time was so off than he planned was because he forced his race to change to human. He did that change just a few moments before he was going to die. And the reason why he chose to be human was because unlike all the races who have some divine protection by their gods, the humans were the weakest because they don't receive any divine protection. Generally, those with divine protection would have more magic power, and the higher the magic power, the slower the aging process will be. Since humans have neither divine protection nor magic power, they grow old and die before they can get strong. However, Hyam discovered that humans also possess the greatest growth potential out of all races, and therefore, by reincarnating in the human race with his battle knowledge, soul memories, and magic circuits from his past life, Hyam will become the absolute strongest being without having to fear any god's divine punishment. That's why he chose to reincarnate as a human without much thought, and he doesn't have any horns anymore, which means he's surely not a demon anymore. Now, Hyam observed his human body and its compatibility with his powers. It wasn't as bad as he thought, and it might take him some time to get used to it. He also needs to see if he can really become the strongest with this body and fulfill his ultimate goal, to kill the demon god. Hyam was about to exit through the door, but to his surprise, it got automatically opened by some outside force. And at that moment, Hyam saw an elf girl in adventurer gear and a sword by her waist. She was confused seeing a human in this place and asked Hyam what he's doing here, because this place is a mountain that is said to be home to the dangerous ancient dragon. Hyam introduced himself and asked the girl who she was, to which she replied with her name, Lumiel, and she claimed to have come here to defeat the ancient dragon. Right then, she received a transmission from the magic communication device, and after hearing it out, she told Hyam that she had some urgent business to take care of before defeating the dragon, so she won't be able to escort him to the bottom of the mountain herself. She asked if he could make it down safely by himself. Hyam agreed he'll be fine by himself, hearing which she left while wishing him to be careful on his way back. Hyam assured her not to worry about him, and he thinks she's surely a noisy girl. However, her talks made him curious about the dragon, and he decided to check this ancient dragon out for himself. Hyam made his way to the top of the mountain, and further he went, closer he could feel a being with strong magic power coming from the top of the mountain. He's sure it has to be from the strongest dragon race, the ancient dragons, and judging by the power he's sensing, it's probably a strong dragon even amongst ancient dragons. Hyam was glad to have come across this dragon, since it's convenient for him as he can use some fighting to get used to his new body. He entered the cave with no fear and soon encountered the ancient dragon that resides here. Hyam challenged the ancient dragon to the contest of strength, and the dragon seemed to understand his words and straight up attacked him with a charge of dragon's breath. Hyam faced the dragon breath head-on and blocked it with a defensive barrier. The dragon tried to clutch him from the sides, but Hyam easily grasped the dragon's claws by hand and stopped its advance. He was enjoying the battle here, while the dragon was trying to erase his existence with another fire breath. However, Hayam still came out unscathed from it, and he dodged the dragon's tail in midair with no biggie. Hayam praised the dragon's impressive breath attack, and next the dragon was about to eat him alive. Dragon closed his mouth on him, and Hayam effortlessly kept the dragon's fangs open with his bare hands. He enhanced his physical strength further with magic and surprised the ancient dragon by lifting its whole body and firmly throwing the gigantic creature to the ground. Hayam slammed the ancient dragon to the ground like a toy, while the ancient dragon was unable to get up for a few moments. Further, the ancient dragon heard Hayam mentioning that his current body seems more compatible with body enhancement magic compared to his past life, and he stood there on the dragon's face with no fear, believing he was right to choose the human race. The ancient dragon regained control and roared at Hayam, as if it would really eat him this time, for sure. Hayam was ever ready to counter this one as well with his gravity magic, and he pushed the dragon with a heavy force. The ancient dragon has come to realize his defeat and admitted his loss to Hayam. He asked the man to do anything he wanted to him now that he defeated the dragon, but Hayam casually asked the dragon to get up. Hayam was feeling lucky to encounter a dragon that can speak human language, to which the dragon replied it's natural since he's an ancient dragon with years of wisdom. Hayam asked the dragon for his age, and it turned out to be around 600, which is young for ancient dragons. The ancient dragon stated that since the human must be here for his treasure, he should hurry up and take it and leave. Hayam replied he's not interested in the treasure, which made the dragon think he's after his scales and fangs, so he asked him to just quickly get done with it. Hayam liked people with this kind of personality, and he kind of wanted to befriend this dragon. So he asked the ancient dragon for his name. The ancient dragon introduced himself as Jorm, the dragon of scorching fire. Hayam knows it's an impressive feat to defeat a dragon who also got a title at a young age, and it's quite amazing he was able to defeat it with his current body while he's still not completely used to it. The dragon gritted teeth, then sat down while wagging his tail, because he was impressed to see a human who seems to have a great deal of knowledge. Hayam smirked, knowing full well it wasn't so usual. Then the dragon asked him for his name, and Hayam introduced himself. After hearing his name, Jorm excitedly asked if he was Hayam, the demon king who killed a god. Hayam agreed he's indeed that demon king, and Jorm figured it means the reincarnation magic of Hayam that he casted before dying in battle worked, and now it makes sense why a human possesses such power. Hayam asked Jorm if he knew about all that, to which Jorm replied Hayam is famous among the ancient dragons after challenging the god itself, and they even call Hayam as the great demon king who killed the demon god. Hayam didn't expect that. Then Jorm mentioned that he now understands why his father told him to live on this mountain. Hayam asked Jorm when was that, and Jorm recalls it was around 500 years ago. Jorm could now also remember that Hayam's face is similar to the demon king from 500 years ago, and it made Hayam wonder if he had met Jorm before. Jorm asked Hayam if he remembered someone named Yalmgund, and Hayam nodded he obviously remembers him. Jorm stated he's son, and that's why he was able to meet the demon king when Jorm was little. Hayam recalls Yalmgund, the great dragon king, whom he made his subject after winning in a contest of strength, and he was the strongest dragon Hayam ever faced in his previous life. However, Yalm was more like his sworn friend than any of his subjects, and he also acted like an advisor to him since he had over 10,000 years of life experience. There were many times Hayam consulted Yalm for advice, and now he figures Yalm must have sent Yalm to live here and guard his grave. Hayam mentioned Yalmgund was also the one who recommended him to reincarnate into a human, and at that time, Hayam thought the risk was too high, but since it was Yalm, he listened to his advice in his last moments. Now, Hayam asked Jorm why his second name was the Great Demon King who killed the demon god, because he remembers that he failed to kill the demon god. Jorm figures he'll think that since he died first, so he explained that the recoil of using divine punishment was too heavy on the demon god, that it left his spiritual body on the verge of death, increasing Hayam's excitement. Hayam here asks Jorm more about that story, to which Jorm explained that demon god, or any god, needs to go through a heavy recoil when they use their divine punishment, so the already weak demon god was in no shape to survive the recoil that easily. Hayam asked if demon god can use divine punishment on humans. Jorm confirmed that doesn't seem to be the case, since a god of a race can only control the existence of their own subjects. Hayam questioned next what happened to the demon god then after their fight, And Jor mentioned his father's guess, that the demon god is hiding in a cocoon somewhere on the earth to recover before he can go back to the realm of gods. Hyam finds this information very helpful. Then he turns to ask Jorm why he is bowing down to him like that. Jorm replied he was embarrassed before about losing to a human, but after he found out that the person who defeated him is the one who defeated a god, he was glad to have him as his opponent. Jorm asks if he was any good, to which Hyam asserts Jorm is indeed strong for an ancient dragon. Jorm is pleased to hear that, and now, assuming that Hyam must have come here for his body, Jorm is prepared to die at his hands. Hyam agrees he indeed came for Jorm, but not to kill him, but asks if he would like to come with him to help him conquer the world. Jorm didn't fully understand, until Hyam explained that he's planning to erase the existence of Demon God for good this time and reclaim the world to make it a better place. Jorm asks if he's serious about that. Hyam confirms twice, after which Jorm decides to give up his life and pride as an ancient dragon to follow his majesty, the demon king Hyam. Jorm's body began glowing brightly with a blinding light, and Hyam witnessed Jorm's whole body transforming into a smaller form, like a familiar. Jorm climbed over Hyam's shoulder, proving to be quite handy and skillful as an ancient dragon. Jorm asks now what Hyam is going to do next, and Hyam states they have to find where the demon god is hiding, in which case Jorm replies that Hyam can freely use the treasure in this place if he needs to. Hyam asked if he was sure about that, since he knew that collecting treasures was an important hobby for dragons. Jorm stated the treasures belonged to the king, and most of his treasure is what his father had been keeping for the demon king. Jorm guided him to the treasure room, filled with vast amounts of gold and other treasures, which made Hyam wonder just how much did Jorm himself collect. Jorm stated most of it wasn't his, and the ones he collected are in another corner, which turned out to be precious and rare weapons and armors. Hyam understood Jorm was into that kind of treasure. Hyam asked why Yalmgund left behind his treasures, but Jorm only knows that his father believed all of this treasure will be meaningful one day, which means he must have been keeping it all for Hyam in advance. Jorm is delighted to see his father's foresight that far into the future, while Hyam understood that Yalm indirectly left not only his treasure, but also his child at Hyam's grave to protect him. Hyam's really curious just what Yalm might be doing now, and if he'll be able to meet him again. Right then, Jorm brought something that his father asked him to keep special care of, and seeing that pendant immediately brought a familiar memory to Hyam, and he asked Jorm to let him have a look at it. Jorm handed it to Hyam, and he confirmed it's indeed the charm that was given to him by Sylphie, his adopted daughter. Jorm now understands why his father asked him to keep it safe, and for Hyam, this was something he always carried in his previous life. It's a magic item that allows him to find Sylphie whenever she gets lost, and he can even check if she's doing well by the light of the magic tool. He misses Sylphie a lot, and wonders if she might be alive after this long, since only a few with high magic potential could survive for so many years. Hyam activated the tool, and it gave off a shining blue light, which means she's still alive, but for some reason, Hyam can't find her exact location from it. He asked Jorm if his father told him anything about Sylphie, but Jorm had no idea, which means Hyam might not be able to see her soon. Jorm asks if His Majesty's sad, to which Hyam replies that's not the case, and he's happy enough to know she's alive. He decided to find Sylphie, and while they're at it, find the demon god as well and kill him. Jorm promises to do his best to stand by His Majesty's side, after which Hyam looks around the treasure and finds a magic bag which can carry a substantial amount of items in it. He stored away the rest of the treasure in the bag and decided to climb down the mountain and see just what the world would be like after 500 years. The demon king Hyam and his new buddy Jorm began climbing down the mountain, and it's around the same time when the elf girl from before was being pushed back by the monster and had her sword broken by it, leaving her defenseless and in a pinch for her life. Meanwhile, Hyam was walking down the mountain, and, as Jorm recommended him, he was planning to head to a nearby town of humans. He wondered who was governing this area now. Jorm informed him that after his death, the country split up and everyone waged wars against each other for lands. Right then, Hyam spotted an orc with a club, and judging by its size, it looked like an orc lord. Jorm was curious why an orc was standing in the path of humans, and Hyam decided to lay low and just continue forward without disturbing it. However, he couldn't do that when he saw an elf girl challenging the orc after declaring her name, Lumiel. She felt obliged to slay the orc from human path, so it couldn't harm others, and Hyam here didn't expect her to be here. Jorm didn't expect His Majesty to have an acquaintance, and Hyam explained he just met her earlier, and she was actually planning to defeat Jorm. While Lumiel was fighting, Hyam figured she was quite skilled with the sword. Then Jorm informed him this girl was actually a hero, who's still in their training process. Jorm thinks they should kill her here, since she might grow up to become a hindrance to the Demon King Hyam. However, this was the moment when Lumiel's sword broke, and she was shocked to see she was handed down a cheap sword in the name of a legendary sword by others. Hyam judges her as a hero with bad judgment, as he saw her charging at the Orc Lord with a broken sword. Hyam analyzes her and confirms she's really a hero, but seems she still doesn't know the fact yet, and thus loses this battle against that Orc Lord. As she was in trouble, Hyam got curious what will happen if he helps the rising hero here. He intervenes and blocks the Orc's club attack with his bare hand, then lunges his other arm into the Orc's body and snatches the beast's heart like he pulled out a battery out of a toy and walks away. Hyam tells Lumiel to at least have a good sword if she can't use magic, but she was more enticed by how amazingly Hyam defeated the Orc with no difficulty. She thanked him and thought he must have trained really hard to reach that level of strength as a human. Hyam bluntly admits she's not wrong, after which she thanks him for saving her life and promises to return the favor. Hyam asks her to tell him about the knowledge of this country and time period, and he lies to her that he doesn't know anything, since he was born and lived his whole life in the mountains. She agrees to return the favor like that, but then Hyam looks the other way where more orcs were present. He asked her if she did anything to earn their resentment, to which she replied that's not the case, and she was here just because she was contacted by a merchant to handle the emergency quest of subjugating the unusual orcs on the path. Hyam told her to protect the merchant in that case, while he'll handle this place by himself. He also lent her a good quality sword from the magic bag, but she was worried about him. He assured her that he's strong like he showed her earlier, so he'll be fine and she should go. Lumiel accepts his offer and thanks him again as she goes to look for the merchant. Hyam apologizes to Jorm for just giving away the sword from his treasure, but as expected, Jorm doesn't mind because his treasures became truly Hyam's when he gave them to him. Hyam prepared himself for the charging orcs and counted them while focusing on a magic orb. Once fully charged, he unleashed a magic bullet right in the moment when he was almost surrounded by over 100 orcs. The magic bullets immediately killed the orcs at once, and Jorm was kind of surprised by Hyam's magic prowess and control. There was nothing left of the orcs that were killed by him, and now that he has taken care of things here, he decided to look for Lumiel. Meanwhile, Lumiel was using the sword given to her to protect some humans from other orcs, and she seemed to be handling them better thanks to a good sword this time. She slashed them one after another successfully, but was shockingly stabbed by an arrow from her back. Lumiel couldn't believe she was betrayed by the same bunch of humans she was protecting before, and that's when she learns that all of this was a trap set by these guys to kill her. They were also about to take her sword to sell it later, while leaving her body here for the orcs to deal with it. Lumiel couldn't understand why these humans were after her life, and what she even did to them. One of the humans decided to answer her pitiful question. They're doing this just for money, and it's fun to see others in despair, especially the elf princess, who got betrayed by the very people she was protecting. Lumiel was feeling pain and despair, until Hyam came to put an end to this and told the guys to stop now. Those guys shouted at him who he was, to which he replied he's just a normal human passing by. The bandits thought Hyam was just a weak human judging by the mana they can feel from him, so they decided to get him and make him a slave. Hyam chuckled to their delusions at once, and next second, he throwed a jab to the bandit leader's face. Others couldn't even see him coming and randomly ambushed Hyam with their knives pointed at him. Hyam couldn't care less and dealt with these pests, while Lumiel was on the ground, in pain and barely conscious. Soon, Hyam called her out asking if she's okay, and also provided his coat to cover her open wounds. He assured her everything's okay now and she can be at ease, hearing which, she thanked him again for saving her life. Hyam then placed hand on her head and used healing magic to cure her wounds. Lumiel felt better than ever, but she ended up losing consciousness. Hyam thought she must have been tired after fighting poison for that long, so it'll be better to let her rest. Now, before they head to town, Hyam decided to clean up what those guys started first. While he was cleaning up the human bodies, one of the guys, still conscious, asked him why a human was helping an elf when they are both fellow human beings. Hyam reminded the guy he was just talking about making him a slave before, so this comrade card won't work now. Moreover, Chaim discovered a magic tool in the same area that summons orcs. He also noticed the bandit leader had a monster repellent on him, which means all of this was plotted by them, or they were probably hired to pretend to be merchants to lure out orcs where the elf girl was. Chaim was sure that the fact a magic tool like this, which should be used by a mage, was being used by those humans, means there's someone of high position who wants her to be killed. Chaim targeted the barely alive bandit leader and interrogated who told him to do that.